What's up, guys? Going to be reviewing a product I've been eyeing for some time. It's an aerobic conditioning tool, the Maxi. It's something that kind of has mixed reviews. A lot of people, for the most part, do like this thing, but a lot of people do kind of question its overall quality and functionality. I've been messing with this product for a good couple weeks now before I kind of put out this review to give you guys my initial feedback. But in this video, I'll talk about why I bought it, how I've been using it, its overall pros and cons, and then at the end of the video, kind of give a kind of final summary and see maybe if it might be for you or not. If you guys are interested in this product and want to check it out and or kind of support the channel, I'll put a link down below in the description box so you guys can check that out. I'll also put some timestamps down below as well. But if you do find this video at all helpful, please consider liking, sharing, or if you like this content, want to see other kind of home fitness related reviews and kind of tips, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Now, if you guys are not familiar with this product, it's essentially a knockoff VersaClimber. The VersaClimber is an excellent conditioning tool. It's been around for a while. I would love to pick one up. Unfortunately, I just don't have, I think it's over like $3 grand to drop on such a thing. So fortunately, if you're like me and you want to try these machines out, but you don't have that much money to kind of drop on that type of equipment, these various companies have kind of made some knockoff versions of these kind of climbing devices. And while there's a lot of companies that kind of make this type of machine or this kind of design, I'd say the Maxi brand is probably the most popular as far as in this like entry level or cheaper kind of market for these types of things. And I also kind of figured out, if you guys watch my channel, you're new to the channel, I talk a lot about total gyms and sliding bench trainers, and this is also another product that seems to be featured on like infomercials or like QVC, and I was not aware of that. Now, what attracted me to want to pick up one of these, and I think it attracts most people to these climbing machines, just makes them kind of unique and just kind of cool, is the fact that you can kind of work your upper and lower body in an aerobic way, or a nice kind of conditioning tool. Takes up a very kind of small footprint. This one, as far as I don't know how all of them are, but this one's very light. Is pretty inexpensive as far as if you want to jump in to kind of pick it up. And I would say it's just one of those machines that just kind of looks different, looks kind of fun and interesting, makes you kind of want to jump on it. And so for me, this kind of checks all the boxes I'm looking for in home fitness related equipment. I got a really small space here that I'm working out in, so I want something that's going to be very low footprint, doesn't take up a lot of space. I love the fact that it's very light. I also like that it's inexpensive, and most importantly, and probably the most important thing to me, is that it is something that kind of seems fun and kind of inviting to make me want to go back and use it, not something that I kind of dread and something just kind of takes up space. I know it's just going to collect dust. Now, the Maxi does seem to be the most popular of these kind of low-end climbing machines. They do make two models. This one said it was like a limited time deal. I don't know how true that really is. For like, I got mine for $208. I'm sure maybe you can get a little cheaper. This thing would be awesome if it was kind of cheaper. I'm sure this thing does not cost that much to manufacture, but I don't have access to be able to make my own equipment, so beggars can't be choosers. They do make a kind of higher end model of Maxi that is like $500 and something. To me, that was kind of a big jump to kind of make that investment. I like the idea as far as this one, that it was just cheaper. If I didn't like it, it's not really a huge loss. Also, when you kind of look at the bigger machines, yes, it's kind of bigger and beefier, definitely a little more comfortable from what I'm hearing, but definitely more people are buying this one. Enough people kind of liked it with like their 5-star reviews compared to the more expensive one. Kind of had 4-star reviews, still kind of hit or miss. So even like this one, even compared to the other one, I might consider investing in the other one if it had a lot more kind of stellar high-star reviews, but since they're kind of hit or miss on these reviews with both machines, I opted just for the cheaper one. So you guys are seeing the unboxing process here. You can see it comes pretty much already fully assembled. It's one of the few pieces of exercise equipment that really is pretty easy to put together, very limited, a few bolts, and it gives you the tool to kind of put it together. So that's a huge plus, I think, for most people. Out of the box impressions were, this thing doesn't seem like it's heavy duty metal. It's fine. It's kind of basically what I expected. Metaling, nothing was dinged up. Everything was fine. These cushions were, again, feel kind of cheap, I guess, but again, I wasn't expecting a whole lot. There'll be kind of a theme throughout this whole review, I'll kind of be saying. One negative I noticed is that this thing was not turning on this little battery compartment. You can pop it out, and there is a battery inside of there, so I assume that battery should have been working. I didn't try replacing it. I'm probably not even going to bother with it, honestly, because it's just like a timer, and I'm just going to use my like Apple Watch to kind of track my workouts anyways, which if you guys are curious, I'm actually using like the stair stepper, or I'm using like the cross training function, because I'll get into that later, kind of how I use to work this out. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much easy to set up, nothing too surprising other than the fact that this battery wasn't working. Initially, something that was really surprising that I like a lot was the fact just how light it was. I know people talked about it being light. I love how you can really collapse it. This is perfect for this space for me. It doesn't take up much room at all. You'll talk about this later. These handles can adjust up and down, so while you might be worried about transporting and stuff like this, these arms come in and out, and you can adjust this up and down. So getting more specific into some of the pros I like about this thing from this first few weeks using it, definitely gets you sweating. There's no question about that. This is one of these machines that now I'm kind of forced to really reconsider, or forcing myself to get some gym flooring on this carpeted space I was in. I'm kind of working back and forth with that for a while now. or at the very least now I've kind of had to have like a gym towel next to me because I'm just like sweating like crazy as soon as I get on this. And I'm not someone honestly who really sweats that easy. I like that you can adjust these handles, but again, that should have been expected. I just wasn't really too sure about that, but it's pretty easy to adjust these handles. Really simplistic design here and everything, how it works. It would have been better if I could design them on the fly as you're kind of going, but I like that these handles are kind of adjustable. They work for kind of most people. My wife, who's shorter, uses this thing and also finds a setting that kind of works for her. Also, to give you guys an idea, I'm 6 foot, 200 pounds, and I find that this thing kind of works out okay. So there's not really any problems with as far as like height-wise, at least someone like me. If you're super tall, I can see this being an issue where you might be kind of hitting and bottoming out the bottom of the kind of like your stride or like your extension of your leg. So that could be an issue for some people. If you're shorter, you should be no problem with this whatsoever. I felt like the thing was relatively stable. I really didn't have too much issues or worries about it like tipping forward or back or anything like that. This next comment might be a little weird and people might not necessarily think it's actually a positive, but I kind of like it. It maybe kind of sounds like I'm defending the machine, but I kind of like its really primitive, I guess you could say it's cheapness about it. I mean, that's kind of like the hard way of saying it, or maybe the honest way of saying it. I like how it's so simplistic. I like how it's totally not fancy. There's no supports here. There's no like hydraulic lift and like the other models that come out there, like the other model of this one. You just kind of have to work with what you got here. So if it's uncomfortable, for sure, this isn't going to fit most people. You just kind of deal with it, but there's no benefits. There's no kind of bells and whistles. It's very simplistic design. So I like that kind of fact about that. Now, as far as how it feels, I know it's probably a concern for a lot of people. I, for the most part, do like it. I'm not gonna say it's super comfortable. Again, maybe I'm kind of defending it a little bit, but this is kind of what I expected. I mean, you kind of know what you're gonna get when you're kind of looking at this thing. It's not a huge like comfort device. I didn't see myself going on this thing for 30 plus minutes to an hour. It's definitely not that type of machine. I did hear that some people do kind of go pretty long. Based on the reviews, I already kind of knew some people found it uncomfortable. Some people found it like kind of aggravated like their knees or their hips. I really didn't have that problem. I'll talk about, you know, this foot pad in a second. No, this is not comfortable at all. I could see where some people might aggravate the knees, and looking at the reviews, some people had like, they had said they had chronic knee pain, but on this machine it was okay. Some people said that this aggravated their knee pain. I think it really kind of depends as far as how this thing's actually going to feel comfortable to you is really like your body. There's a lot of variables, honestly. I mean, your body type, how tall you are, how much weight you got on you, what you're doing with this, how you're kind of distributing your weight. This is one of those things that as you're doing the workout, you can kind of think about, you know, what body parts in your legs and your arms that you want to work. For sure, like I said, I'll get to this later. You're going to want to adjust this throughout the workout a little bit. I found myself not wanting to stick to like one thing at a time. So if I'm going to do this for like a whole session, I found myself kind of manipulating these arms a little bit. But I'd say again, for the most part, as far as I'm concerned, my joints and how everything kind of felt, I don't have like super strong knees or anything like that. Like most people, if something aggravates my knees, I'm doing something kind of that's a little bit different for my legs, I can feel that at my knees. But the point was, yes, I could feel that would aggravate some people's knees. I think you just got to adjust your kind of foot placement. I'll get to this probably in the cons, but I kind of would move my foot up and down the actual pad here a little bit, kind of to disperse the weight as we kind of went along. I kind of like where the tension's kind of built up because like I said, you can kind of choose to how you're positioning yourself, what you're focusing on. You could focus a little more on your glutes, your hamstrings, or maybe your quads. I would say predominantly you definitely feel a little more on the front end of your legs, but you certainly feel it in your glutes as well if you want to kind of sit back a little bit. I wouldn't sit back too far though because you could actually tip this if you really did that enough. On the upper body, I definitely feel that. I mean, you feel that a lot in the lats. In fact, that was one of the biggest things I noticed right away, probably because I was doing an upper body workout and jumped onto this thing, which is also one of the benefits. It doesn't matter what body part you're working. If you're doing like kind of bodybuilding or something like that, if you're an upper body day or lower body day, you can kind of mix this in at the end of a session, but you definitely will feel this in your lats. The comfort of this, I'll talk about that in the cons. You'll want to I kind of found myself switching it up, but I actually found this supinated grip to be a little bit more comfortable versus this one just based on my size. And then finally, a huge plus to me that I consider really important, a good testament of how I like something after a period of time is just, am I still finding it interesting? Is it something that I look at and I kind of want to jump on it and use it? And I would say, again, this for sure is definitely a yes. Since I got it, even now looking at it, I want to jump on it and just get a couple minutes just to do something. It's a fun exercise machine. And a good test of that is honestly like your kids. My kids look at this thing and they want to hop on it. I wouldn't recommend this, obviously, but I have a little stool somewhere in here, but if they want to use it, I'll kind of watch them. They step on here, they'll hold on to here, and they just kind of move on it for like 20 seconds and they hop off, but even they walk in this room and they kind of want to jump on this thing, which again, obviously maybe something you got to be careful with. But overall, that's one of the biggest selling points to me. One of the things I'm happy with it so far is it is something that I do want to jump on and use. All right, now getting into the cons, the very first thing I noticed after honestly the first few minutes is jumping onto it, even though I thought it was pretty cool, is that this foot placement thing, the foot pads are just totally uncomfortable. My wife noticed it too right away when she jumped on it. You'll see some reviews, people saying the same thing. There's no way you could do this barefoot. Maybe you could, maybe your foot would kind of toughen up to it. But yeah, after you're kind of going onto it, especially if maybe it's the weight makes a difference too. But I noticed like right away after a few minutes, like where my feet were, I was kind of more on the balls of my feet. First off, the pad's not that big and there's no cushion whatsoever. The upgraded version does have that. I basically started finding myself kind of moving around, adjusting my foot placement. Now I am wearing kind of like thinner sole shoes, so I haven't tried like a thicker soled shoe to see if that makes any difference. I will say though that even though this thing is kind of uncomfortable, and just like in your feet, and this won't really affect it too much, so I'll talk about later kind of how I use this thing, and maybe it's why I use this thing a certain way. I do find that after like a week or consistently using it, I have found that kind of discomfort kind of goes away. So it could just be like my foot getting used to it and kind of toughening up to it, because I definitely noticed the first time I used it, it was in a few minutes instantly, it would feel uncomfortable. I got to shift positions. Now I can get onto it, go excess of like 5 minutes, whatever, and not have to feel like I had to adjust my feet. Otherwise, what I was doing was kind of adjusting my foot placement. I had my balls of my feet, and maybe I'd shift more to like my heels. So I would just kind of move my feet around as I was kind of going on the workout. Another con, and again, this sounds kind of like contradictory because I just said, I kind of like the way it feels overall. It's kind of how I expected it. But one of the cons I would say is like these arm handles. I wish they were a little bit longer. They're kind of close. So for me, when I'm doing like a traditional one this way, it just feels a little awkward. It doesn't like hurt my elbows at all, but just kind of after a while, it just feels a little uncomfortable going this close. So I naturally kind of want to gravitate to this. I would kind of have this at a longer setting. And my point is, I kind of mess with it. There's a certain setting I kind of like, but depending on the workout I'm doing, once I kind of hop off, I'll adjust this to certain settings. That's kind of a cool thing. You can kind of do short chopping motions. You can do long motions. But overall, I'd say one con is that these things aren't, I wish these things were a little bit wider in the distance and how I was grabbing and holding on to them. Like this would be great, and this would be like perfect for me, but for me, I'm kind of forced to be kind of grabbing it a little bit closer this way. So that could be different for each person though. I'd say the overall biggest con about this machine, this might make or break if you want to decide to pick this up. It's something, again, I was kind of already expecting it, but kind of definitely more so now that I know about it, is that this is not something you'd want to spend excess of like 20 minutes on. So if you're looking for like an aerobic conditioning tool or some sort of a cardio piece that is inexpensive, works your upper and lower body, and you want to stay on it for a longer period of time, like you think this is going to be kind of like a comfortable thing. Like I thought maybe I could like put this on, like you'd watch TV, I could bring this thing outside and kind of zone out. To me at least, and maybe I'll toughen myself up to it or just get used to it. I just don't find like that's not where this thing really kind of shines in my opinion. So I could be wrong, that could just be me, but that's kind of the biggest con I noticed. This is not really a device that you're going to want to do like long cardio sessions on. Now I want to address a couple of concerns that I can kind of speak for based on what some of the reviews people are kind of looking at, and that's something I was kind of concerned about when I saw it. The biggest concern when you get to something like this that has like rollers, even like something like that I use, like my Total Gym, is that people were worried that these rollers kind of wear out quickly, that they kind of break. People were saying online that as they were using this product, they noticed like some black like silt kind of rubbing off onto the floor. I had no experience of really doing that. As I was doing this, I didn't see anything, any problems with it. I'll talk about the noise in a second, but to me, I didn't like lubricate this at all. I know some people were doing that, but basically I'm not finding any problems, at least initially in this first few weeks doing it. I'll mention this at the end, but if I do see any problems, I'll definitely pin a comment down below and keep you guys updated as far as if anything does happen. So guys, quick but important update I'm throwing in the middle of this video. This isn't going to influence my overall end decision at the end because I still kind of stand by my overall thoughts on the product, but this definitely can make or break your decision. So want to make sure I got this on here. My whole video is completed, but I noticed this morning. I was working out. I was on the ground doing some stuff. I look over at this machine. I saw these kind of black lines. This wasn't as pronounced as when I noticed it, but this got a little pronounced because I was kind of started lubricating the rails here. But as you guys can see, there's kind of these black lines. Not so much up top. I know you can't really see the up top part. Nothing up here. It's more like at the bottom. And I think this is the source of the issues with the wheel wear, at least it seems like it. And I was kind of looking more on the side of the wheel. And I definitely mentioned in the video how hitting the bottom can be an issue. Or if I will mention it, depending where I put this in the video. But I noticed these kind of black lines. And what's happening, you guys can really see this, but the roller, what's really kind of wearing on it is this inner roller is rubbing on the side of the of the rail there. Actually, this stuff on the side I'm noticing, but you see, I think that's more the lubrication than anything that I kind of put on there. It's causing those black streaks. And that's, I think, the source of like that black silt people were saying. I didn't never notice anything collecting on the machine while doing it, but when I just applied a little bit like a lubrication onto like the rail system, let's put on my finger here. You can I kind of lube this area up. You can see these kind of hard lines don't really want to come off here. You know, that might be already from the stuff wearing on it, but you can see, you know, all the black stuff that is kind of coming off this machine. So this is, I think, the source of where this kind of friction and wear on the wheels are coming from. At this point, you know, I've already kind of invested in this product. I do like it. This is definitely something that's an issue I don't like seeing. I'll keep kind of lubricating the rails here, and I'll keep posting you guys. I'll just keep, you know, using this thing and kind of abusing as much as I can, but definitely not a good sign to see this. I don't know how long this thing will actually last. If other people have the other issues, I'll contact the company if I hear anything different. I'll let you guys know. In the meantime, I'm gonna kind of watch this. I'm gonna try and clean this off a bit, because you don't want to have a whole lot of like stuff building up, because that can actually affect the wheel regardless. But I'll keep this area of the frame kind of lubed up, and I'll kind of let you guys know as we kind of go along, but just wanted to make sure I got this in here. People are really saying, like, make sure you do not, like, it should be kind of obvious, but there's a bottom roller right here. You do not want to like slam and keep hitting the bottom. So if you're someone who's like maybe taller, or you're just going back and forth nailing the bottom each time, that's going to wear out your rollers for sure. That's going to ding the roller, and that's going to make it not as smooth. So that could be the cause of that. And the guy talked a lot about this one guy's video, and I'll show it to you guys in a second, kind of proper ways to get on and off the machine. So essentially, I'm just trying as much as I can to never have this kind of hit the bottom. So basically what that guy's review was saying, and this can be a little tricky, I guess, when you first start doing it, is just making sure you're kind of holding on to this. It says it in the book, but honestly, if I was looking at it, you have to look at it, read it really literally to kind of understand this, but it does say this kind of, I guess, more or less in the manual. You'd want to essentially have, if I'm stepping off my left leg, I'm going to use my right hand to kind of post myself up here. I'm holding on to the rails here as well, and then that's how I'm going to get myself up onto this thing, and that's how I'm going to reverse it to get off, and that kind of protects it so you're not like stepping on the bottom, kind of smashing those rollers when you get on and off the machine. And then a big concern people were saying is just like the noise. People were saying this thing is like really noisy, that they have to lubricate it just because it's just so noisy. I honestly don't think this is really a big deal. You guys can hear it now. Just the rollers going on the metal. To me, it's no more noisy than really any other piece of equipment, like a treadmill, my Concept 2 rower, any fan bike. All those things are going to be noisier than this. So as far as actual like cardio equipment's concerned, it's probably one of the more quiet things I actually have. Now granted, maybe like a spin bike would be at the quietest, but I mean, this thing, yeah, it's a noise to it, but it's not that noisy. Which leads me into kind of how I've been using this tool. So like I said, even though it's something that you don't want to spend a whole lot of time on, I do find this to be like the perfect interval tool. Maybe because out of necessity, because it does kind of get a little uncomfortable after a certain number of minutes that you're on it, so you kind of hop off it. But how I've personally been using it, I kind of do this at the end of my workout, after I kind of do all my resistance training stuff more or less. I might kind of mix this up more in the front end, possibly in future days. But basically, I'll do my resistance training stuff at the end when it gets kind of more like cardio. I'll kind of jump on this, throw some music on. I'll kind of do more intervals of like maybe 2 to 5 minutes, maybe a song length. Then I kind of hop off. It's basically I hop off as soon as it starts to get a little uncomfortable. And then I'll kind of like do some push-ups, do whatever, do something else basically until I'm ready to jump back on it. So it's kind of weird. This thing makes you want to jump on it, and then it makes you want to hop off it. So like you'll have this craving to like jump on, do some reps, and then after a few minutes, you're like, okay, this thing is getting a little uncomfortable. I want to get off this thing. You hop off, but then immediately you're like, I want to jump back on it too. So this is, in my opinion, one of the most perfect conditioning tools I've kind of used in that regard. All right, so my final thoughts on this product is that I actually am very happy with this purchase. Like I said earlier in the video, that this was something that I kind of already knew what I was getting into. I kind of knew some of the pros and cons. My overall biggest concern picking this up was the roller integrity, and if having that kind of like the stuff kind of wearing away, or kind of seeing that stuff happen early on. Like I said earlier as well, if I see anything go wrong with this thing, if this thing breaks anytime soon, because I'll be putting this thing to, it's been getting a lot of use in these last few weeks I've been using it. If something starts to happen, I'll definitely pin a comment down below and let you guys know for sure. Yes, it would be great if this thing was a little bit cheaper. I'm sure this thing does not, I'm sure everything has a markup, but for $208, it's cheap, but You can tell with these parts and everything, this thing is probably not too expensive to manufacture. This thing would be a hands-down awesome winner if it was in like the, closer to lower 100s or something like that. I'd say the important thing is that this has added a lot of value to my workouts. This makes my, little small workout space all the more interesting and fun. That's kind of the biggest thing. Like I keep saying, it's something that I keep wanting to come back on and use. It's something different. It's got that low footprint. It's inexpensive. I love that I can close this up and fold it around. If I couldn't close it up, that would be kind of a negative. But since you can close this up, packs against the wall here, that's an awesome plus. So that's really it, guys. Like I said, if anything does go wrong or if I have any other kind of tips or things or suggestions, I'll put them down below. If you guys have any questions or comments I didn't cover in this, definitely let me know down below. If you already own this machine, you guys got some tips of ways to kind of keep this thing, lasting a little bit longer. If you guys have yours, I'm kind of curious how long you've had it and if you use it through consistent use. Even though this thing was like $200, if I'm using this thing as often as I am using it and I get at least like 4 or 5 years out of this thing, I'd be very happy with it. So that's really it, guys. I'll see you guys in the next video.